Hey there. I feel nervous doing this video, and I just want to state a few intentions of sharing this, which is I want to talk about an experience I've had these last few months where I feel like I perhaps had kind of a mixture of a nervous breakdown, adrenal fatigue, kind of spiritual opening, awakening, Kundalini like experience, and just a great mysterious experience. I don't even know what to call it, but I want to share a little bit about my experience. And my intention for sharing is I just feel like a little shaky talking about this. My intention for sharing is a few things. I really have the hope that my words and my authentic experience might touch other people who've maybe struggled with panic attacks and adrenal fatigue and kind of big, huge life experiences, and be of support to those people. I think I'm also sharing this because I have such a passion for talking about the things that people are afraid to talk about and normalizing our crazy human experience and bringing a lot of compassion to it. And so I think that's one of the biggest reasons I want to share and let you guys in on my journey these last 2 months. I think my third reason for sharing this is also that I'm still kind of collecting the pieces of what happened. And I think there's something about maybe creating a video here that will help me also really digest this really big life-changing experience, because it's definitely been the biggest thing I've ever experienced in my life. So with that said, I guess what I'll start with was maybe about 3 months ago, I set an intention on a beach down in southern Bali. During this global pandemic, I set an intention to finally step into my full power. And there's just something about setting that kind of intention where you're like, yeah, I'm ready. Life, bring it. I'm ready to fully step into my work in the world, my true voice in the world, the love with my partner, the love with myself. I'm ready to take all of this to the next level. So I set that intention thinking this would be an amazing intention. 2 weeks later, I had a panic attack that lasted 24 hours. And during this global pandemic, I had been working, the last 5-6 months, I'd been working with clients, 6 to 9 clients a day, 5 days a week. I felt really privileged to be here in Bali during such a big world event. And I felt a sense of joy and responsibility, and joyous responsibility to really show up for people. And I think if I'm really honest with myself, I was wearing a big, huge martyr hero cape. And during those 6 months or so, I really wasn't doing enough to take care of myself during such a big time in our world. And my work is as an intuitive and a coach, and I also do trauma therapy with clients, and more of my clients' trauma was being stirred up, and I wasn't working enough with other people to get support for the trauma that was getting stirred up in me. So 3 months ago, I set this beautiful intention and 2 weeks later, a panic attack started. And essentially for 2 weeks, I was stuck in the fight, flight, freeze response, and most especially the flight response. So I had about 10 days to 2 weeks of pretty much nonstop panic attacks. It's even just kind of like, my heart's beating a little fast just even talking about it. I've had some panic attacks in my life, but not ones that lasted for 2 weeks, and they were especially hard at night. And it was really hard. It was the weirdest thing to kind of have these panic attack experiences and then not be able to come down. Like, I couldn't self-regulate. And I practice mindfulness. I teach, mindfulness and all these skills. I help people with trauma, but I couldn't down-regulate. And none of the tools that I have were working. It was shocking. It forced me, truly, like, strong-armed me to face the fact that this panic, this anxiety, this utter terror in my being was my body pleading for me to finally listen, and to listen to the fact that I hadn't been taking care of myself. And the more I resisted these feelings, these terror feelings, this massive amount of energy that was moving through my body, the more I resisted it, the more that the panic and anxiety and terror continued. And I tried every tool in the book. I put my feet in cold water. I crawled on my hands and knees. I engaged the vagus nerve by humming and singing, but nothing worked. And, I would practice certain tools that would help me bring my system down, and they would work maybe once or twice, but then they wouldn't work. And the only thing that consistently worked was just taking some slow breaths. I had a lot of shortness of breath, so I couldn't even take deep breaths, but taking slow breaths and allowing these really big, acute sensations, just allowing them to be here, which is a really hard thing to do when the sensations feel so big. And I felt physical pain in my heart, sometimes my solar plexus, and sometimes it felt like someone was squeezing my throat, and the sensations became so massive that I literally felt like I was dying. But it was so strange because they were both physical, but they were energetic as well. And there would just literally be these like waves and ripples of energy, just big energy moving through my whole body. And I would be shaking and crying and trying to sing, and then doing everything I could to try to get this energy to move. And all it really wanted was for me to surrender and allow it and listen to it. And I'm even wondering right now, I'm like, do I even make sense? This is like I'm letting you in on a big journey I was on. And it was big, and it would last all day and all night. And I felt after 10 days of this like I was losing my mind, which is, again, one of my biggest fears. I'm already a little out there being an intuitive and and all that, but then to like feel like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna end up in a mental hospital. I'm gonna end up loaded up on meds, living in my mom's guest room for the rest of my life. Like, I really got afraid that I was losing my grip on reality and not sleeping and having, your whole sympathetic nervous system is completely engaged for 10 to 12 days. Of course, you start to lose your grip on reality. What I didn't know is that some part of me was cracking. Some really important part of me has been cracking open. It feels almost like a persona, a personality that I've had my whole life. It broke, and it's still here. I don't think we ever fully lose our personas, but something in me cracked. during these 2 months, I've spent a lot of time in nature, a lot of time just looking at the clouds, watching ants, hanging out in water. I could not be on technology at all. It so fully dysregulated me. I couldn't look at the news, hear about even what's going on in the world. I had to completely cut off from all my clients, which was massive for me and a massive kind of blow to my identity as someone who just is here and can hold so many people. I couldn't even respond to an email during this time. My full-time job became taking care of myself, which that in itself was so profound. And this whole experience just forced me to open to receiving the support and the love from the people around me. And there were so many people who showed up with love and support and tips and tools and mostly just their presence while I completely unraveled. Yeah, I feel so humbled right now just even talking about it, like to unravel, to like fully unravel in front of loved ones. Yeah, I think I just prided myself on being the person, the strong one for so many friends, for so many clients, and I lost my shit. I unraveled. And there is something so profoundly painful and beautiful in this experience. I was brought to my knees. Whew. After 2 weeks of not being able to leave my house, my partner was my full-time caretaker, had to do everything for me. A friend was like, you need to sleep. Your body can't heal at all from this big experience unless you're getting some rest. And so for the first time in my life, I went on some medication that I just took at night to help me sleep. And that also was humbling. I think I did have a judgment around medication, but it was actually a lifesaver. So I started sleeping at least 5 hours a night, and that was the deal I made with myself. I know I'm going through something major, but I need to sleep or else I'm really going to be in a bad place. I was privileged enough. I had enough savings that I could afford getting therapy 3-4 times a week during this period of time. And I had a lot of support. And I think multiple days I just cried for all the people who've gone through something like this. You know, if you call it a nervous breakdown or a great unraveling or an unexpected Kundalini Awakening, like if you go through something like this without support. What else do I want to share? I think, again, I'm just so blown away. I had massive adrenal fatigue. Even just walking from my bed to the bathroom would be exhausting. Every day, shortness of breath, like it felt like my lungs were so tight. And anytime I did or said anything that was out of alignment with me, my body would respond instantly. I'd get really tight in my chest, my belly, or mostly the squeezing sensation in my throat. And so if a friend came over to be with me or kind of babysit me, I had to be really clear about what I was available for and really request, hey, if you're going to be with me, we can't talk about you right now. I have no capacity to even ask you how you're doing. So if you want to come over, that's something that you just need to know right now. And again, being such a giver and a people pleaser, caretaker type. That was just in itself super massive. So I feel like I can finally talk about this now because I feel like I'm here in my body. I'm not going to say I'm back. I'm profoundly altered and humbled by this experience. I feel like there's so much more to say, but if I was to share some of the profound takeaways that I have right now about this, one of them was that I had no idea how much I've been operating in some kind of hero martyr persona with clients and friends and family until now. And I think, you throw a global pandemic into the mix where everyone's trauma gets stirred up, and it certainly stirred up some parts of me that felt like I'm here to help and I'm here to save and I'm here to fix. And that part of me fully got burned out. And the whiplash of that was just these severe panic attacks where I finally had to listen. So that's a big, huge wake-up call, is I have a renewed and profoundly deeper respect for the limitations of our bodies and our nervous systems. We live in a culture where I feel like the doer, the giver, the go-go-goer is kind of idolized and pedestalized. And I think that we can't do that. Humans cannot rely on adrenaline as fuel. Maybe short term, certainly not long term. And the adrenal fatigue I have right now, I'm still healing from it. I can't even walk fast yet. So that's one big, huge wake-up call. Another one is the profound healing capacity of nature. Thank God for that sleeping medicine. I feel like that really supported me. Thank God for my friends and support team here in Bali and in the US. And the greatest healing force was nature. Being in the ocean, hanging out with dogs, petting kitty cats, watching ants, touching the ground with my feet and my hands, and just letting the winds and the trees support me. Profound. I think a third thing that I'm really struck by, which I've mentioned already, is just, one of my friends, Shauna, talked about this quote, who spoke it, I'm forgetting, but it's suffering equals pain times resistance. So when we're in pain and we're resisting that pain, we generate suffering for ourselves. And I spent those first 2 weeks and maybe kind of month and a half, if I'm honest, suffering, because I was resisting the fact that me, strong, capable Juna, was going through this. And I was still in denial and pushing this experience away. And each time that I just opened to it, surrendered to it, this is what's here. This is what's here. My reality always might be a little psychedelic and a little strange, and my nervous system might be dysregulated for as long as it's dysregulated. The more I just open to that, the suffering started to go away. So there's something profound in acceptance. It doesn't mean you like what's here, but it means that you are letting yourself be with it, be with yourself in whatever is here. And that really became and continues to be my practice. I'm not out of the woods yet. I'm still having waves of all of this, but I'm finally here. I'm back in this body, in this heart. And I think the third big takeaway is the power of love. which I feel like I'm learning so much about. Yeah, to let in the love from my partner, from my friends, and the practitioners who showed up for me. To let in that love, which was in the form of support. That was really hard to let in at first, and really important and really profound. I couldn't have done it without all that love and support. And to let in my own love and support. It was so hard to feel like I was losing my mind. It was so hard to witness myself unraveling. You can't even imagine the amount of judgment that brought up for me. I was like, no, sweetheart, love yourself in this. Love yourself in this. This might be months or years. Can you love yourself right now, regardless of what's happening? And that continues to be a massive practice of mine. Thank you for witnessing. Thank you for being here. I'm sure after I shoot this video, I'll be like, oh, there is so much more. And there is. This has been a massive experience. And as much as I've hated it, I think I've also needed it. It's been a massive wake-up call. And it's been pretty profound now, when I can now finally read a little bit, to learn a little bit more about the nervous system, about, Kundalini experiences, about healthy boundaries, about parts work, IFS, about, what it is to be a highly sensitive person, because I definitely am one of those, and I don't think I recognized it until now. So anyway, I'm just sending big hugs to all of you out there. This is a wild time on our planet. It really feels like at the deepest levels, I don't even know if I want to call it the shadow, but kind of just our underbellies are being exposed, and things that maybe we've already worked on, but maybe not to this depth. They're rising to the surface. And I think the big question is, how do we do this work with compassion? How do we do this work with less suffering, more presence, more acceptance? And by calling in enough support, because we all need support. We can't do this alone. That's my offering for you here today. Thank you for witnessing.